Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 112 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we spend almost the entire weekly rundown breaking down the playoff bracket in the EHL, and in particular, the play-in game and all of the first-round matchups. Further along in the Ecru Fantasy Challenge, we recap the final stretch of the regular season and announce our picks for the first round of the postseason. Last but not least, we wrap up the episode by highlighting one series apiece that we're looking forward to the most.
What's up, guys? It's that time of year again. I don't know how we made it, but it's the playoffs.
I don't either, Neil. I'm at a loss for words. We're weeks away from the Frozen Finals. We're going back to Schneider, baby.
Yes.
We're going back.
If those who don't know, Jeff is actually the host of the finals because you live 15 minutes from there.
As he's wearing Northeastern gear. Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
We're also a tiny bit giggly right now because we've already been on Zoom for over an hour getting up to this point, but the record button started just a few minutes ago.
Yes, it did. We had to have our pre-meeting, our pre-podcast meeting of playoff predictions and all sorts of good stuff. So
I thought you almost called it the pre-meeting meeting.
Yeah, almost.
Basically. The meeting of the last couple brain cells.
We've been very busy since September. I think we're all getting the end of season brain at this point.
So with that, let's get into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the Ecru's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
And for those that haven't read it yet, make sure to read Anthony's first round preview in the EHL because I learned a lot, Anthony. I'll tell you that. Like, there was a lot of stats that you dug up, and for every single series, you tell me exactly why so-and-so will win, and I love that.
Yeah, it was a fun article to write. There are so many great storylines across the league this year. You know, Colin Bella breaking the goals record, Nathan Miller getting the shutout record, and everything in between. The Little Flyers scoring more than 200 goals this season. And there are probably a couple of stories that I might have missed out on. So for the teams who may have noticed, I apologize. But it should really be a fun postseason, and I'm looking forward to covering it with the rest of you.
Yeah, awesome job, Anthony, on that.
We need to talk about two storylines that you just brought up. First, Little Flyers score over 200 goals, 210, right, to be exact. How is that not even in the top 5 in our history? Like, that is such a good season, but it's not even in the top 5.
Neil,
oh, God.
to put it lightly, there were some teams that lost by double digits on a rather regular basis. we all know. I mean, look, it's fact. Neil, it's a fact, and I think that could have played a factor.
For sure.
Last season, because of the pandemic, we had a cascade effect of players coming down from the USHL to the NUL to the EHL. I mean, heck, that's why Matt Belinsky came back to the 87s last season. He was originally with the Danbury Junior Hat Tricks, and there are a couple of cases like that last season. So a couple of different factors, but yeah, I was surprised they were the only team that won above 200 goals.
We got a lot of good goaltenders this year.
It's been a week, Jeff.
Oof, what? Yeah, it has.
Just this week.
I've been in championship land all week.
I guess the bigger point is to put up 210 goals and be in what arguably could be declared as the toughest division in the history of the league. So, and then the other point you brought up is Colin Bella and Lauren. We're going to get to fantasy. I really don't want to talk about it yet, but what he did down the stretch is like
so good.
It's you can't even put it into words.
It's
like, we always talk about players averaging a point per game. He averaged a goal per game.
Over a goal per game.
Like that
47 and 46.
Unfathomable. What?
I texted you guys that the other day. Colin McDavid. That's his new name.
He's
He is
so
a cheat
good.
code.
Wait,
He is a video game.
I actually have a good stat. So in his last, I want to say 7 games, his last 7 games, he scored 15 goals. Only 49 other players in the EHL had scored 15 goals all season.
Oh my God.
Wow.
The rest did not reach the 15 goal plateau. He did that in his last 7 games.
Yeah,
Only 49 other guys in the EHL had 15 goals or more.
Yep, in the entire
That's 7
season.
games.
And Colin matched that in 7 games.
Good stat, Anthony. That's very good.
In a week. In a week's worth of games, Jeff.
Just
I was
one week.
congratulating him on breaking the goals record, and he was talking to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and he was asking me about fantasy because he was on my team this week, and he was like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "How's that been looking?" I'm like, "Jeff's catching up to me, and it's making me a little
Yeah.
nervous." He's like, "Oh, it's okay." He's like,
Say no more.
He's like,
Thank you,
he's
Colin.
Like, he's like, your 2 Collins got you this week, and literally, I think the next day he went off and scored like 3 or 4 goals in his game, and I was like, he wasn't kidding.
I think the closest I got was within 3 points of you, Lauren. It was within like 3 or 2. It was right there. And then, yep. Colin.
I also just want to say, when I did the Q&A with him earlier this season, I think the one thing that he's most proud about is beating his brother's record of scoring 40 goals in a season. Not only did he
Without a doubt.
not only did he pass AJ's mark of 40 goals, he also beat the single season record that was held by both Alex Ochterbeck and Devin Panzeka. They're both at 43. He blew past that to 47.
Yep.
And they played more games. Like, it's so out of this world, the numbers that he put up, that you can't wrap your head around it.
And I feel like at one point in the
and
regular
when
season,
there was the
wasn't
most
he-
parity in the league, too, Neil.
Yeah.
I brought up before how there were some teams where they gave up a lot of goals. There were no teams that were real bottom feeders or as much as I hate to use the term doormats. he went up against really good teams, and he still lit up EHL goaltending.
And I was talking about this with Adam Hooley at some point, Anthony. I forget who it was. And he pointed out how he was doing it against everybody. And I was like, yeah, he scored 4 against you once. And he's like, did you have to remind me of that? And I was like, well, it happened. So I have to, I kind of remind you. But
that was a pretty good day of work. He had 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points on February the 2nd against the 87.
It's just, it's ridiculous, right? But
and had the game winner that day. Oof.
Yes, it was a very special season for the EHL. This is a very EHL centric episode with, of course, the play-in game starting the playoffs today for us, and then the first round starting following that. So we have one final set of power rankings to take care of, and we're going to kind of do this one a little bit differently. This is who are the top 5 teams in what order from the whole year heading into the postseason.
It's a season long.
So you can say Avalanche season long, or you could say not Avalanche, because I truly think that right now they're not the top 5 team.
I think Chris would even agree with us that they're not. They're playing some of their worst hockey. Apologize for the lack of friendly words there, but it's true. They're 3-7 in the last 10, but good thing, silver lining for the Avalanche is, what do they do best? They heat up and in the playoffs. They're one of the best playoff teams that we've had in this league since its existence. So we'll see if this team can turn it on.
Recognize Anthony's statement earlier about the parity, right? But something's going to happen crazy in the playoffs. We just know it will. But in this moment, who can we say is the top team going into the playoffs? Number one, the current quote-unquote favorite. To me, it's the Little Flyers.
I was going to say Little Flyers too, Neil. Yep.
We got 2.
I would say it's either going to be them or the Railers. I think the Railers have been looking all right.
Okay, Anthony?
I have to go with the regular season champions and defending champion Boston Junior Rangers.
Oh, God. We're a little torn here already.
2 PLFs, a Railer, and a Ranger.
I want to put the Rangers at 2. Do you feel that same way, Jeff?
Yeah. I was saying, because their offense is starting to click. They've had the goaltending all year with Miller and Jackson, and now calling some games to them in the last month or so. The Rangers offense is starting to heat up. So, but I just think the Little Flyers have been in another world for a long time now.
This is not how they're going to finish. This is not what we're saying the championship matchups
Yeah.
could be. We're just saying this is what we think is the order entering the postseason.
Right. Your strongest teams heading into the postseason.
Who would you say is 2 right now after the Railers, Laura?
Oh,
You weren't ready for that one.
no.
It's hard.
Well, I mean, I would have to probably just say the Avs or maybe the Rangers. I feel like in the second half of the season, the Rangers have been a bit up and down. I mean, the Avs have too, but like, I don't know. I think it would be between the two of them.
Just so we all know, BGR did win 10 of its final 11 games of the season.
Yeah. 9-1 the last 10. Yep.
Yes, but the first bit of the second half of the season didn't really start out that great for them.
The Rangers
it didn't, but
yeah, it was win-loss.
I think that's well behind them now.
The Rangers had a tough
is.
January to the Avalanche's tough February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now I want to go Little Flyers 1, Rangers 2.
I say 87's 3.
87's 3. That to me are the top 3 teams entering the postseason.
Yep, I agree. And I think they're teams that have been, like we're saying, like this is a kind of mixture of what have you done for me lately, but also kind of like a season-long, picture, if you will, of the power rankings too. So, yeah, I put New Jersey at 3.
Yep.
And then we get the 4 and 5. This is where it gets tough.
This is where it gets really tough.
Do you give more credit to the Avalanche up until February, or do you give more credit to the Wolves who went 8-2 in February? They had to go 8-2 in order to get the number 2 seed in their division, which we're going to talk about brackets. That's going to be huge for them hosting that Vermont series.
And when you're looking at those two teams too, Neil, this is the thing that we've talked about, right? Is the Avalanche didn't play in a lot of meaningful games for a long time. They were kind of they blew doors for a good portion of the season. You got to give the Wolves credit for having to dig themselves out of the hole that they were in. What was their first 10 games? They were, I think, 1-9, I think, out of the stretch, or they were in a massive hole. They dug themselves out, moved all the way up the North standings. Credit to Coach Trimble, Coach Kuhn's, GM, owner Trimble, Connor Bates and all them, that they made some good additions, getting Kilgallen and net, and Cavandle's been great. Yelensky's has been his usual, machine self.
Gregor Yevs was a great addition as well.
Gregor Yevs, my boy Yevs, that's right. Go Yevs. But yeah, I mean, so you got to give the Wolves credit of like how to dig yourselves out of a hole like that, and being in the North Division when you're playing the Lumberjacks, the Avalanche, the Spartans all the time. That's a tough division. So
I'm at the point where I would go Wolves 4, and then where I'm stuck, and Lauren mentioned this team earlier, is the Railers and Avs. I think both did the same thing. They both got to January and then kind of flipped their car around and went reverse a little bit the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
I would
for
agree.
The Lumberjacks though, are they in consideration at all?
Or is it Wolves and then Lumberjacks, and the Avs and Railers are each out?
I'll say 4 teams, one spot.
I think
receiving votes. Do we do receiving votes?
With the Lumberjacks, they have been looking pretty good anyway. But I think once they had the addition of Perno to kind of give a little bit more edge and competition to Kotai and Billiquy before the roster freezes happened and everybody kind of switched a little bit, I think that kind of helped them out. And I noticed they'd been kind of saving a few guys for playoffs. So some of their heavy hitters had been sitting for a little bit, but I think it kind of could benefit them for playoffs. But I don't know. I think since Perno joined them, they've been looking a lot better. They've had a little bit of new life in them. And I don't know. Between those 3 teams, it's pretty tough.
Personally, I would give the 5th spot to the Avalanche just because I think they have the strongest lineup out of the teams. Ronan Mobley has been the Iron Horse in net for the Avalanche. They have 3 guys that have recorded more than 60 points. Like, their lineup, top to bottom, is just stacked. They're a deep team, and we mentioned before they made it to the championship game last season, and I think they're going to play with a similar chip on their shoulder. So, combined with the good record, despite the bit of a rough patch at the end of the season, I would still give the number 5 spot to the Avs.
Okay, Jeff?
I'm fine with the Avalanche because Anthony brings up a good point too, Neil, is that the Avalanche their forwards and decor and goal, like the combination of forwards, D, and goalie, kind of reminds me of the Rangers from last year. The way we saw them down in Pennsylvania, they just rolled 4 lines, and any line was dangerous at any point in time. The Avs have those kind of lower line guys like the Jason Gordon. Jason Gordon scored 25 goals for the Chiefs last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a third, fourth line type guy. So they get those kind of glue guys that you need when you watch, NHL, college, juniors, playoffs at that time of year. It's those kind of guys that sometimes score those game-winning goals and stuff. So I'm fine with giving the Avalanche the 5 spot.
I'm sorry, Lauren. I got to go with the Avs too right now. But
we still love you, Lauren.
Let's go with Lumberjacks and Railers, though, are each receiving votes. And that's our final power rankings. Final power rankings for the EHL for the year. And we will do a final EHLP next week. We have to talk still later on about a big game that they have coming up. But now we shift our focus towards the bracket. And this is where it gets fun. It's what we do every year, and we create plenty of.
Oh, is that what you call it? You call it fun? I call it stress.
I mean,
Yeah.
I call it gray hairs, man. Here comes the gray hairs, bud.
As long as you get the chance to have a call directed to you from an owner this year that says thanks for the fuel, like I got last year.
Very gunty.
Yes, that was excellent last year. I mean,
right.
My reasoning last year was that Maryland had never beat the Rough Riders in the regular season, so I picked the Rough Riders to win that series, and then they got swept by Maryland. So great, that's how it worked out. But
so you talked about earlier, someone's gonna pull off an upset. It's a matter 100%. Of who's gonna do it.
We're gonna talk about just our first round picks right now because this is the first round episode. If you get your pick correct, you get 5 points. If you pick the right number of games, you get an additional 2 points. And then that play-in game is for 2 points. So let's start with the play-in game because all 3 of you are saying Valley and I'm saying Seahawks.
Yeah.
So in the words of Anthony's article, why are the Warriors going to win that game?
Those 2 teams, I feel like, in my opinion, they've been a bit hard to read compared to some of these other teams. Some of these other teams are a bit like they're just strong and that's just how they are. I just feel like these 2 teams have been a bit up and down. I think the Warriors have had a little bit of better look in this second half. They kind of struggled towards the end of the first half, but I think once the new year came along, they're like, all right, we got to fix this. And they had Carreri come up. They had some guys coming back from injuries and sicknesses, and they just, I think, had it together a little bit more. And I think, especially because they have the home ice advantage, I think they're going to take full advantage of that. And I think that's why they're going to take it.
Who's next? Or did Lauren say what needed to be said about Valley? Because what's funny is you're all picking Valley. I think that we could all bet some money. Carreri's going to start in net.
Yeah.
I'm picking the Seahawks, and I have no idea who's in goal.
That's what troubles me about the Seahawks.
But that's no slight to Tucker Hansen, though. He's a solid goalie too. It's just they've been riding Carreri a little bit because he's been pretty good for them. So it's like they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if he's been playing, if he's been hot, he might as well try to ride it out until he needs help.
For me, I'm going based off of the sports mindset that the team is due. The Seahawks down the stretch, they beat the Warriors 2-1 in overtime. They beat the Railers 5-3. They beat the Railers 4-3 also in a shootout. And they had an overtime loss to the Rangers, an overtime loss to the Railers, a 1-goal loss to the Express. So to me, they feel like the team that's due to come out on the other side of a 1-goal game. I'll make a bold prediction right now. Our play-in game that starts this whole postseason is going to overtime. So you heard that one here first too.
So it looks like Warriors had the season series 4-2, but Seahawks took the final 2 games against the Warriors. So who else? There's another series that was like that this year between I think it was someone in the north. Was it the Avalanche? I don't know, it might have been the South, but either way, so it's one of those things that those games from September, October, forget about that. Teams are totally changed. I'm pretty sure Alexander Rolfe wasn't even on the Seahawks at that time. Grant Linville wasn't either. So like you said, that's what kind of troubles me about Coach Zanaboni Seahawks a little bit is who is the starter? Hopkins, Linville, Rolfe. We all know goaltending wins championships. Bill would say that. Bill's a former goaltender himself. And I think I like Carreri over Seahawks ex goalie a little better. And I like the depth of the forwards that the Warriors have, the lapses, Albertis, Hartnetts. I think that those guys are going to be all juiced up. They're going to be at home too, where they play well at home ice and sleeping in their own beds. So that's why I give the Warriors a little bit of a advantage, and I think they might come on top against the Seahawks. So
did Lauren and Jeff cover everything that needed to be covered, Anthony?
One thing I would add too is that the Valley Junior Warriors, despite being in fourth place, and I mentioned this in my preview, they were only behind the Boston Junior Rangers in terms of goals scored, where they actually had the second best offense in the East Division. And they had a couple of players reach the 20-goal plateau. That was Billy Hartnett and Jonathan Lapsa. And not to mention, Dominic Metro was really good from the blue line. So I think that Valley has a couple of more players that definitely stand out. And I think those can be the difference makers in the playing game. So that's why I'm going with Valley.
Let's stay in the East because the three of you have Valley, but two of you say the Rangers are going to beat the Warriors. One of you says the Warriors are going to beat the Rangers. And for me, who I say it's going to be the Seahawks, I still say the Rangers are going to win that series. Anthony brought this up earlier. Rangers have won 10 of their last 11. I watched Nathan Miller the way that he's playing. He's one win away from tying Brendan Brawley for the all-time overall wins in his career in the EHL, and he's going to tie him and surpass him right in this series. No doubt about it. 2 games, so they'll take 2.
He's locked in. He has that look. I agree, Neil. I called some Rangers games down the stretch, and kid's locked in. He's ready. He's ready for the postseason. But, I mean, if you want to play devil's advocate, which we all like to do, we talked about it in our pre-podcast meeting. The Warriors lost all 6 of those games to the Rangers. What do we know about the game of hockey? It's one of those games where you're never going to beat, even if it's a team that's a lesser team than you. It's hard to beat a team that many times. So, I mean, the Rangers are going to, it's a best of 3 series. You're going to have to win 2 more times. Does that go 3 games? Like the Warriors got to win eventually. And some of those games were close. One of them was an overtime game. One was in a shootout, I believe. And then their last game, it felt like a playoff game between the last regular season meeting between the Warriors and Rangers. And so it's tough. I still have the Rangers over the Warriors. I'm sorry, Ryan McGrath. Love you, buddy. I know I'm going to get a text for that after that, but I just think the Rangers, defending champs, just have a little too much on their side for the Warriors to be able to top them off in a 3-game set. It's still going to be interesting, though.
I think some of what Jeff said plays into why I am choosing the Warriors to win, because it's like you said, yes, they've lost to the Rangers all season, but I think it's also like Neil said with the Seahawks, where they're due for a win. I think, yes, they've been losing to the Rangers, but like they're not all terrible losses. And like to me, it's similar to the Railers and the Chiefs matchup this season, where like they've had each other's numbers all season. The games are always close, always exciting. There's it's never just one team just kind of sits there and just takes the loss. Like they just go at it with each other. It's fun to watch, and I think the Warriors are gonna take it.
Anthony, why do you say it's the Rangers?
I just think top down, they're the better lineup, especially when it comes to goaltending and defense. The Boston Junior Rangers only gave up 84 goals this season. The next highest, I think, was 97. So they're one of 2 teams to give up fewer than 100 and 13 fewer than the next best team. Like, their defense was just insane. I know I was talking about the Valley Junior Warriors offense. Not sure if it'll be enough to get past Nathan Miller, because like you said, Neil, he's chasing that record. He has been fantastic down the stretch. So I think I'm going to have to go with the Junior Rangers in 2.
So for the other first round series in the East, I am calling it the Who Are They series.
Yeah.
Because who are the Express and who are the Wizards? It's a matter of who's going to show up, right?
Right.
And to me, what do we always say, Jeff, this time of year? Who do you not want to face in the postseason?
East Coast Wizards, baby.
Woo! That's why I'm going with them.
I asked Neil before this podcast, you have your Andrew Harley underwear on. All jokes aside, he has an Andrew Harley jersey, not underwear.
Not underwear.
No, but we all know that Neil called every single game in East Coast Wizards history for, what was it, 4 straight seasons?
It was a while, but they always seem to be the toughest out in the postseason.
Back to the Freddie Meyer days. Back to when old Freddie was still here.
And I honestly, I think this will go 3 games. I think it could be decided by a goal every game, and there could be 1 or 2 or even 3 overtime games. I think the teams.
And hold on, not to cut you off, Neil. The last time we were in Schneider, Wizards were there.
That was 2019, Jeff.
Yes, Freddie was still there. Core was the assistant.
That was the previous decade, if you will.
Oh my
right?
God! Yeah, that literally feels like 2010.
Yes. So
I've been thinking about that a lot.
I will. We're not announcing our full brackets on this podcast. So I'll have to check our social media for that. But I am picking the Wizards to win that series, and I believe I have to go back and look at our notes from our Giggle Fest from earlier. I think all 3 of you are picking the Express.
Jumping on the red train.
Choo choo.
I think they just, when they want to be good, they can shut it down and they can win games. I think when they have Jack Boschert backing them up, they have Scott Bird to help him out. Like, I think they're going to be pretty good in net. And I think they have guys like Shooter, and they got Percy back. Percy's a big guy for them. Like, they have plenty of guys up front, and like, I think they can take it. This is no slight to the Wizards. The Wizards are pretty good too. I actually watched them beat the Warriors to get to play the Express, and that was pretty exciting. And Matt Gover looked great in net. He's a solid goalie for them. Pat Alto is also not a bad choice for them as well. So Wizards aren't gonna be. I don't think they're gonna give up too easily. And I don't think they're gonna just give up either. But I think the Express are gonna take this one.
This will be a series to see who can score more goals. I made the comparison during the production meeting, aka the Giggle Fest, that I see a lot of similarities between the Vegas Golden Knights against the Los Angeles Kings. It was Marc-Andre Fleury and Jonathan Quick, where both goaltenders finished with a save percentage above .950.
Yep.
Part of that is because I think both teams' offense isn't exactly overwhelming. The Express do have a slight advantage in that. And they've got the slight advantage in net with Jack Boschert over Matt Gover. But like Lauren said, also a terrific goalie. And I think I also said, Neil, for this series, if there's one series where all 3 games will go into overtime, this is my pick. Okay. I think it will be all 1-goal games and potentially all in overtime, which I think would be very exciting. But I have the Express just edging out the Wizards in this one.
And Jeff, another easy bet for me at the start of all this was Jeff is going to pick the Red Train.
Love the Red Train. So many episodes we've talked about it. I'm not going to talk about it again. Why I love the Red Train, but it's got to be their time, right? I think it's got to be their time. Also, do we know that Boschert's going to be a starter, not Bird?
We don't know.
We don't.
It's like his Bird's played a lot too, so that's kind of an interesting. Throw that wrinkle in there. Birds.
So that's what we're saying too. They have options. They're both solid goaltenders, so they have the option.
But like Anthony said too, it's like both offenses. Express, I believe, scored 30 more goals than the Wizards in the regular season, but they also gave up about the same. They gave up less goals than the combination of Gover, Senza, and Alto too. So I think Boschert and Bird, that tandem, whoever starts, is a little tick higher than the Alto, Senza, Gover trio. And I think that Walpole is pissed off. I think they wanted to go to the Frozen Finals last year. I know Cody Campbell's not there anymore, but he still talks to Josh Holmstrom a good deal. Yeah. These are a lot of Cody Campbell's guys that he recruited into the Express organization. And I think that they'll be hungry to make some noise. The Guelphs, Pages, Shooters, like Lauren said, Parker James. There's a lot of guys, returners from last year's team. Anthony Percy too. So those guys still have a bad taste in their mouth how they exited the playoffs last year, and I think they'll end up knocking off again. Sorry, Coach Felitti, Corey, love you too. As we do all of our love yous, send us the text, berate us because it's gonna come after we post this episode.
I love how you say sorry every time.
I do, because we love these guys, right? We're friends with all these coaches. We talk to all of them, but someone's got to win, someone's got to lose.
And the best pronunciation of the season is Coach Firelight.
Coach Firelight.
Remember that one for the All-Star Classic? That was a good one. But Jeff, I didn't know what division they wanted to go to next until you said that it's the Express time. I think were the words that you use. But the 87s have been using the hashtag our time
yeah.
all year long. even
Yes, they
mid
have.
eight game losing streak, they were using our time. So that series, though, Ducks 87s. I know we're going to go right to you, Anthony, but that is that there's not hate there, but there's a strong
Sure?
desire to win. There is a strong desire to win that series.
In-state rivals, Jersey versus Jersey.
Yeah, it is going to be a hard fought series, and that is severely underselling it. I mean, ProTech is in their second season, and first off, hats off to them. Second season in the league, they finish well above 500, and as we keep talking about all year, in a very stacked South Division, just like the Wolves, not to a similar extent, but they did have a rough start, but they rebounded quite nicely. And I also think that they have the best goaltending tandem in the league. And what I mean by that, I mean goaltenders who play about an equal amount of time. Tristan Fatidad, 930 save percentage. Trey Miller, 922, 12 wins each. So they're going to have good goaltending no matter who they put in net. Both the 87s, they had that turnaround where they won 15 straight. They had that 17-game point streak. And the entire season, like even when they were losing games, their defense was still top-notch. Jeremy Connor, Owen Haynes, both terrific in goal. But the offense has come alive. They picked up Anastasio, former ProTech junior Duck, Robbie Seawagon, Jason Atkinson, guys who have been with the team the entire year, turned it on. Matt Zdanowicz, Devlin O'Kane, Everett Schneider, all coming back from an injury. Like, this team's loaded, and I think that they're just going to power through the Ducks. I think it'll take 3 games, but like I said, it should be a very, very fun series.
Yes. And I'm going with the Ducks in this series. I look at their forwards, and I think what surprises me is just how deep they are consistently. And with the addition of Civitano, I think that helps them a lot. Evyen, Jeff loves his Yevs.
Yes.
And then that top forward line of Spencer Quinn, Nick Newman, and James Tilley, who are going to kind of in a way play against each other next year when Quinn and Newman are at Fredonia and Tilley is at Brockport. So I'm leaning towards
Bro's at Brockport too.
Yeah, so it's literally 2-on-2, basically, right? So I'm leaning towards the Ducks. But again, this is another 2-3 matchup like the Wizards and Express that it just feels so even. It just feels so even.
Feels like a Frozen Finals matchup.
It could. It does.
Could be.
So the other series, though, in the South Division, before we dive into the Little Flyers in Maryland, we do want to pass along our condolences to the Team Maryland family, the unfortunate passing of Christopher Sarinsky. And being down there a few weeks ago, like the part that's like surreal for me is I didn't know Chris that well, but he shares an office with Josh Fusco. So Josh is calling me to help schedule this playoff series while this is all going on. And I'm like, Josh, we can wait a day or so. Like he's like, no, Chris would want us to have this done. We're playing for him, and it's going to be weird for me to go back into that office, but we're motivated. So
that's a dangerous thing for a team to have something like that under their sails. Oof,
and when you look at this series, Maryland entered the postseason on the same 6-game losing streak that they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Little Flyers have won, Anthony, you'll know this number, 14 of their last 16, something
16
crazy.
of their last 18.
Okay, there you go. Like, it's like the runs they were on, and then talking to Hooley, he kept saying, if we went out, and like comparing him to the Little Flyers, because he knew that if they tied, the Little Flyers had a 1-point advantage in the tiebreaker, and they both just go out and win out. Like, the runs that these teams went on just to get the number 1 seed. Maryland will win a game. I'm picking the Little Flyers in 3, though, because I think the Little Flyers offensively are the most potent team in the entire league.
I would have to agree with you there. When the Little Flyers are scoring, they're scoring in bunches. They love to share the wealth. Sometimes it's a lot of the usual suspects, as we say, but when they score, they score. It just, when it rains, it pours. They love to put the puck in the back of the net. They got guys like Kyle Patton captaining the team. They got Jordan Camillo, rookie, powerful kid. You got Smirnov just dumping the pucks in. Like, you have a whole bunch of good names of guys that can just put the puck in the net and no problem. And that's why I think the Little Flyers are going to take this one. And that's what it's like to Team Maryland. They have their good moments. They're a pretty solid team when they want to be. They added Jackson Bernard. They got Colin Burke back. They what's his name, Gideon Sullivan as their goalie too. Like, they've had some tough times where they had to kind of face a little bit of adversity, but they were able to come back from it. So they're not a team to shake a stick at by any means, but I think the Little Flyers are going to take this one.
Lauren, I don't know if you can put Sava Smirnov and dumping the puck in the same sentence together. He always has the puck on his stick. Yeah. And that's more of a testament to his skill. He's just such an electrifying player to watch. I picked the Little Flyers in 3. I think Jackson Bernard can steal at least a game, but I also think, are we going to see the same Jackson Bernard that was with Applecore? Because if that is the case, then Maryland could very well steal the series from the Little Flyers. And the other thing I'd have to watch out for, we talked about it a bit last season, that Team Maryland and Josh Fusco's squad likes to play a very gritty game that is ideal for the playoffs. I mean, Nick Graziano, one of the leading scorers for Team Maryland, can very easily play that kind of game. And I think that could work into his favor in the postseason. So this is a hard pick for me. I'm still going with the Little Flyers, but I do think Maryland will give them a run for their money.
And that leaves me. So it's another series. We had a lot of these in the entire league this year, where a lot of teams won the first half of the in-division series, and that was the case. Team Maryland took the first 3 games against the Little Flyers, and then the Little Flyers ended up taking the latter half of their series late in the season. But Neil, did I pick them in 2 or 3? I forget. I think I picked Little Flyers in 2.
I will find. Hold on.
Did I pick a sweep? Like we said, we went over so many matchups.
Yeah,
but
you picked Little Flyers over Maryland in 2, Jeff.
I did. I mean, what you guys have just talked about. I think the Little Flyers are playing the best hockey in this league right now. You got 4 guys. They look like the Avalanche with 4 guys over 50 points. They got 6 guys that are all over 30 points. And that doesn't even include 2 of their biggest additions that were late in the season. Connor McDonnell, one of our favorite podcast episodes, and Harrison Dumas, another one. So those are 2 guys. And then Henson's been one of those goaltenders that I've picked a lot in fantasy. I feel like he doesn't get enough notoriety, doesn't get enough attention, if you will. But he had some unbelievable numbers. Goals against 2.18. He finished after the season. Save percentage 922. 122 games, played in 33 of them. That's a guy that they rode all season long. So again, devil's advocate though. Henson played a lot of games, one of the true workhorses in the EHL in the 21-22 season. Does he get a little tired here down the stretch? Maybe. And the good thing for him, Little Flyers score a lot of goals. So if he does have an off day and gives up 3 or 4, they score 6 or 7, like they did a lot, or 17, like they did one time in the second half of the season, then they're okay. But I just think the Little Flyers they're in a different zone. Another team that's really irritated that they didn't get to the Frozen Finals last year when they were in their own state. Yes. They could have just taken a short ride instead of coming all the way up to Providence. But I guess they like to do things the hard way and try to get to Providence and take the long trip up instead of taking the short trip.
Take the scenic route.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Scenic route. But yeah, I just think Philadelphia's just going to be too much for Team Maryland to handle. Again, I'll send my sorry to Josh Fusco. Josh, love you. Continue my sorries.
All right, Central or North? Where do you guys want to go next?
I see we
Let's go with the Central.
Central.
Feeling it.
So we start with the Railers and Applecore. And I guess we'll just go right to Anthony because Anthony picked against all 3 of us. Anthony, why are the Applecore going to win this series?
You know, it's so funny because Applecore has had a tough season, but ironically enough, this is the most confident I am about an upset.
I know you were like didn't even bat an eyelash when we were doing these.
Yeah,
Applecore. We're all like,
I mean, first off, Colin Bella may have gotten the scoring title this season, but Colin Callanan was right up there along with Nick Weber and Colby Walters. Now, you can always say, okay, we'll just have to keep that top line in check and then we're good. Well, that's a big if because they still scored a boat ton of points. And if they do get shut down, then I think we also have to focus on another player for Apple Core, and that's Charles Lavoie.
Yeah.
He had 17 points in his final 7 games of the season. Like he was
back-to-back weeks in fantasy too.
He was a man
Thank you,
possessed. And the other thing too, Apple Core had 4 of its 12 wins in the final 7 games of the season. And I think this is a team that's kind of rallied around their interim coach in Joe Weichworth. And the other thing too, I mentioned this in the season preview, Apple Core and the Railers have only faced off in the regular season just once. So I think that non-familiarity will play in Apple Core's favor, where the Railers didn't really get used to defending guys like Callahan, Walters, or Weber. And I think that Apple Core could really take advantage of this. I can see them upsetting the Railers.
We'll see.
I said 3 the other direction. Yes, Worcester is not entering the postseason in the form that they'd like to be. But I think that when the switch flips offensively, they can score in buckets as well. And one of those guys is a guy I picked recently, and Jack Lee. I think he's one of those guys offensively that can lead the way for them. So I do agree it's going to go 3 games, but I think that the home ice advantage for the Railers is going to pay huge dividends.
I was just going to say the same thing. I feel like the Railers are really going to lean into that home ice advantage because, like, that's a fun rink to play in. They have such a beautiful facility. And I'm not just saying that because I'm Blue Train, but I think they're really gonna lean into that, and I think they have a solid group of goaltending too. They have Stefan Kuhanek, they've got Cam Carroll now, they've got Xavier Lapierre. They have plenty of guys to go with. They have a bunch of heavy hitters on their team. They have Pimentel, they have Scolo. You've got like all these kind of guys that can just score when they're like really feeling it, and I think they're just gonna get their stuff together and just take it in 2.
Final words on that series, Jeff? Do you just want to say sorry to the Apple Core for picking the Railers?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten to develop any friendships with the new interim coach of the Apple Core, so I guess that's a good thing in this scenario. Yeah, I mean, Anthony and Lauren bring up a ton of really good points as far as, Apple Core are starting to play some more inspired hockey with the changing of bench bosses, and they're getting a little deeper with guys like Lavoie. I saw that with my fantasy team. Again, thank you, Charles, for all those points. Helped me get a little closer to Lauren. And again, Lauren was the regular season champion, but we're still continuing this into the playoffs, everybody. So we still got some time to catch her. But I just think, Sean Bertoni and the Railers, they got their premier team to the Frozen Finals last year, but they didn't get their EHL team to the Frozen Finals. And I think that's another team that is dangerous. They're deep. You mentioned Jack Lee, you got Pimentel, you got Anastasi, Tyler Drummond. Congrats to Tyler, committed to Curry College. Kulanick, LaPierre. So none of those teams just filled with good players, and just not enough good players to match them on the side for New York. So I think I picked Railers but I think I picked Railers in 3. So I think that Apple Core may still push them a little bit and win a game, but I think the blue train prevails.
Well, I think too, they have, if you look at the roster, they have a lot of age out kids. I'm surprised they don't have more commitments, but I think the fact that a lot of these guys, this is their last year, I think I think that kind of gives them a little extra motivation to want to go as far as they can and go all the way, because it's their last chance at it before they either go off to college or whatever else they choose to do next. And I think that's going to help fuel them a little bit.
And that's the Railers you were talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have some commitments coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love that.
And we mentioned earlier the New Jersey showdown between the Ducks and the 87s in the South. We have a Nutmeg State showdown between the Rough Riders and the
Bringing
Chiefs.
that back?
Yeah, we have to. That's a series that's just
interesting.
Weird.
Because at one point the Chiefs beat the Rough Riders 7-0, but as hockey goes, the Rough Riders won the next day.
Mm-hmm. And you picked that, I think. I think you said Rough Riders are going to win.
I did. Well, then I passed out the CT Cup that I didn't even know existed.
That's right.
So the CT Cup rolls over, I guess you could say, into the postseason, and how goaltending and goaltender, as Anthony used the name Jonathan Quick, earlier. I forget what year it was. You guys can give me the date, but there was a season where Quick just took his team to the finals, as a goalie.
Yep.
You haven't seen it that way as a forward, but Bella has that talent, and he's gonna start with the first step of beating the Chiefs, and you have to shut him down, but he still scores.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's what I'm going.
You can't stop him. It's like he's unstoppable. He's Colin McDavid. We said.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well,
you can drop whatever strategies you want, but yeah, he's gonna score his goals.
I think these two teams have been tough against each other, but I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs have been looking a little better lately. They won their past 2 games against the Railers, which have been a tough matchup all season, one that I've liked this season, and I think the Chiefs could take it. I don't think if this is another one where I don't think the Rough Riders are just going to sit there. I think they're going to give them a bit of a run for their money and push this to 3 games. I think Colin Bell is going to obviously dump some pucks in the net for sure. Like there's no question about that. Like unless they just really find a way to shut him out, he's definitely going to be scoring in this series. But I think the Chiefs kind of have been looking a little better. Their goaltending's getting better with McCallop and all those guys. And I think their defense is starting to clean up a little bit. Captain Dom Cherico's kind of helping those guys get a little more cleaner, kind of get better in front of the net. So I think the Chiefs are going to take this one.
That was a 2-2 season series because there's only 4 teams in that division. So they only play each other 4 times as opposed to the 6 teams.
CT Cup, Jeff, 3-2.
Oh, CT Cup. Sorry. Whoopsies.
No, they played 5 times, but there was that 10-0 game.
Right, that's like the outlier, but I mean, we've talked a lot about all these different predictions that we've made, and Lauren's former Red All-Star boy Marshall McCallop, I think, is a very good goaltender.
Oh yeah,
very good, and I think that he could be the difference maker because you look over at the Rough Riders, much like we've talked about with the Seahawks. They got guys who are you gonna put in net, and who's gonna be able to stop the Justin Harshaws and all the other guys on the Chiefs, the Jack Devines. Congrats to Jack for committing to St. Anselm. And is it going to be Nicholas Junkin? Is it going to be Delida?
Ryan Delida.
Another name we were figuring out how the heck to say on the podcast.
Here's another thing with Ryan Delida and Nicholas Junkin. They combined for 9 wins where they made at least 40 saves. So they're definitely capable of stealing games. I think the biggest question mark for the Rough Riders, especially after losing Dominic Civitano, can anybody else step up other than Colin Bella and Dallas D'Amato?
Yeah, Baxley's been good too. He was good for a while.
He's
for
starting
the
to heat up a little bit. He was out
Karen
for a while with an injury, but I think he's starting to kind of hit his stride a little bit again. So he's somebody to watch out for. And plus, like you were saying with the Chiefs goalies, McCallum is great, but he's got a good backup in Yost because he was kind of a late addition for them. He came in, I think, around when they were hosting their showcase, and he ended up being a great guy for them. He's a good backup. If they need to start him, they can. It's another thing where they kind of added a few faces late in the season, and it bode well for them. And I think that could be something helpful for them in this series.
Good backups always help too, as far as like conversations. You see it in playoffs all the time. Backups can be some of your smarter, just like backup quarterbacks in the NFL can be some of your smarter guys that can talk to the starter and say, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. So maybe Yost can give McCallum a little bit of help that way too.
In my second life, Jeff, I'm going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. It's a great position.
Brian Hoyer, $10 million.
You can make a bunch of money, you can win rings, and you don't get killed. That's great.
Yeah, so like this. What was that play? Yes. 48 toss? Cool. All right.
Next. Our last division is the North Division, and I'm going to dub it the Rematch Division. Because a year ago, it was the Spartans that beat the Avalanche 2-0 in that series. Avalanche, of course, ended up with the at-large bid that we had to institute last year because of the special circumstances. And then it was the Lumberjacks.
Special circumstances.
COVID-19, special circumstances. And the Lumberjacks beat the Wolves. So this is the year of the rematch. And I want to start with the Avalanche and Spartans because what makes it unique is that the Avalanche dominated last year's season series up until a loss at the end of the year, just like this year. And the Avalanche had a weird February. I know we're all still picking the Avs to turn them around, but it would not surprise me if that series goes 3 games.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't been able to get a good enough read on the Spartans to really kind of edge them out over the Avs, which is why I'm picking the Avs. I feel like, in my opinion, they're one of those teams that we like to say, who are they? I feel like this whole season, I just can't really get a good read on them. They're kind of just up and down a little bit, and they just kind of haven't found enough consistency this season to really be like, okay, yeah, they're really strong, or okay, like they're not good. Like, they're kind of in that one of those like middle teams where like they can be good when they want to be, but then they can also kind of fall off a little bit sometimes. So I don't feel like I've gotten a good enough read on them this season to feel confident that they can take the Avs, even though the Avs have, like we said, they've been struggling a little bit towards the end of the regular season. But I just don't think, from what I've seen from the Spartans, I don't know if they really have it in them to take over the Avs.
Brett Schreider said it to me during one of the showcases. When the team is feeling it, everyone is feeling it, where it's kind of a domino effect. If one player is feeling hot, then all like the rest of the players kind of pick up on it, and vice versa. If a player's not feeling too great, then again, that domino effect kind of takes place. So if you just have a couple of players that turn it on for the postseason and the rest of the team follows suit, yeah, like they could definitely repeat last season's feat and upset the Avalanche. Will that actually happen? In terms of my predictions, no. I think the Avalanche are good enough to bounce back, and I think they're going to be playing with that chip on their shoulder. They gave up that overtime goal against the Junior Rangers in the championship game. I think they're hungry to get back to that title game.
Yeah, like you just said, Anthony, and I think Chris is probably, he still thinks about last year's. He didn't like that he was the Cinderella team, if you will, that got that little right. That was something that was a big topic of conversation last year at the finals. Like, oh, you guys got in as the special team, and then I mean they came in
the charity bid.
Oh man,
the Jimmy Fun team. I heard somebody say, but
right for the jugular here. Jeez.
I love Chris. I love Chris. I love the Avalanche. I'm not saying anything. I just think this is a compliment. I think they are going to flip the switch. They are going to turn it on. Chris is going to go to the locker room and say, "Hey guys, it's that time. It's March. What do we do in March? We win championships. Let's go." And he's still irritated about losing to the Spartans last year in that first round. I don't think the Spartans team is the same as last year's. I mean, Ty Franchi, losing him in the middle of the season. Good for Franchi that he's playing for Lebanon Valley, I believe it is.
Yep.
Guys. And he's been doing really well. And Drew Adams was a blue boy, a blue all-star, #blue boys. Thank you, Justin Spiteri, for coining that nickname many times ago. But Adams and Perfacci versus all the snipers, the Hotchkisses, the Carlsons, all those guys. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's Avs.
Ty Franchi actually was named to the all-rookie team in the UCHC. And he was only there for half a year. So we're going to do a story on all of those winners, though, in a little bit. The final series we have to break down before we get to fantasy, I know Lauren wants us to rush to fantasy, is the Wolves and Lumberjacks rematch. And
another interesting.
To me, this one simply came down to that 2-game regular season series when the Wolves swept the Lumberjacks and clinched home ice basically for this. And I think that is the difference. Being home in Laconia puts them over the top of Vermont.
Well, this is one I'll do a little shameless plug for myself. I recently talked to Tyler Penry and Aiden LaValle, both headed off to Buffalo State next season. And they mentioned as like part of something they're going to be kind of remembering and like taking away from this like experience here is they kind of got a little bit of fuel. They've had the Wolves number after last season. They were telling me about it. And I got to see them play once up in Laconia, and obviously Wolves definitely took home ice advantage to like their favor, and they really kind of took it to the Lumberjacks. But I think the Lumberjacks are going to give them a bit of a run for their money. I think this is another one where it's not going to be a clean sweep. I think the Wolves are going to push the Lumberjacks, especially being at home. But I think with a guy like Lenny Perno in net and the guys backing him up, and you got Tyler Penry, you got Aiden LaValle, you got Brandon Clark, you've got Louis Joseph Garnon. Like, you've got some big names on that team. I think they're going to be able to take this, but I think they're going to take it in 3. I think the Wolves aren't just going to let them have it, especially at their home rink. I think they're really going to kind of give them a run for their money, and they've got guys like Commando, they've got Grigorevs, they've got like all kinds of solid guys on their team, so I think they're definitely going to give them a bit of a hard time.
Left side of my screen, Jeff Anthony.
Jeff Anthony, would you like to?
Yeah, Jeff
should we save Anthony
by,
for last?
No, you need to finish because you have to apologize to whoever you pick against.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, I'm not going to apologize.
I was just saying, do we let Anthony go? So
my face is going to be on a dartboard in the locker room in Laconia.
Yes,
okay,
Anthony, bring it, buddy. Let's go.
I'm going Lumberjacks in 3. It's going to be a hard-fought series.
Yeah.
And I think this could be another series where we're going to be seeing quite a few overtime games. But when push comes to shove, there's just a gut feeling that says Lenny Perno is going to be a goaltender that's going to go off in the postseason. And I think he's going to be a difference maker. Yeah, I mean, look, the Wolves are a super talented team. And we talked about Grigorievs, Declan House, can't forget about him. Kevin Johnson, one of the leading scorers for the Wolves. But the Lumberjacks have their own players too. You talked about Henry and Aiden LaValle, Lauren, where they can go toe-to-toe, but I just think Perno's going to steal this series, and I think Vermont's going to win it in 3.
And last but certainly not least, let me say my sorries and goodbyes. And so I think I'm sorry, Neil, I did not write any of these down as we were spitfiring these. I had Lumbies in 3.
Yes.
I remember correctly. So this is another interesting, right? Another interesting one as we continue to speak proper English on the E Show. Wolves won every game at Merrill Fay Arena in this matchup. Every game in this 3-game series is at Merrill Fay Arena. So for the Lumberjacks to win the series, they have to change the narrative. And we've been told that Merrill Fay is one of the hardest buildings to play in. So with that being said, like you guys just brought up, actually, one name we didn't mention was new pronunciation too. Victor Daniel. Did I say that right, Lauren?
Victor Daniel. I love him.
Daniel. We've been calling him Dano all year, but it's Daniel. He's French, like his man Louis Joseph Guérin.
I was going to say thank you, Guérin, for that pronunciation. Appreciate you for that one.
But I think that Gary Gill's Lumberjacks have been one of the better teams in the second half. So have the Wolves. Like Anthony said, it's not going to be an easy series. It's going to be a hard-fought 3-game set. But I like the Lumberjacks' high-octane, fast offense with the combination of Lenny Perno to help the Lumberjacks come out on top in that in 3.
There's a chance that I either get 5 points on my own or all 3 of you get 5 points. So,
we push you farther down.
Oh, God, we're going to get to that. But for the bracket, you get 5 points if you pick a round correctly. 2 points if you pick the number of games correctly, and then 2 points for the play-in game. So we haven't covered what happens if you pick the bracket entirely correctly, because the odds of you actually doing that are not really high.
Slim to none.
But
Kyle tried last year.
If someone is perfect after the first round, perfect. Winners and number of games.
Hat-trick points?
We'll set a number there.
We're getting there, Jeff. Don't worry.
With that, we're going to fantasy now.
It's time for the Ecru Fantasy Challenge.
And the Ecru Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com. I just want to start this segment by saying thank you, Colin Bella. You have been a blessing on my team all season.
And we also are figuring out when me and Lauren did some award show stuff last night. I think this was a strategy of Lauren's. I think she finished in last the week before so that she could pick Colin Bella.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what happened.
Yes.
I got hot at the wrong time. I was trying to make up all that ground, which I did, but
looking back and seeing my 3 forwards for the playoffs last year, which were Egan Schmidt, Dante Terramani, and Zach Simon, I'm like, okay, makes sense why I won last year. Filthy. But we're all, this segment is also sponsored by random.org this week, because that's what helped us pick our order for how we were going to pick our picks.
Hey, they knew I was doing well. They put me last anyway.
But we're going to announce them in the order of which we finished the regular season, from 4th, not last, 4th to 1st, because I am in 4th place.
Basement to the penthouse.
Ooh.
For our final week and a half stretch, which was February 24th through March 7th, Tyler Ebling got me 3 assists, 2 of which were on the power play. Kieran Chung, 2 goals, 5 assists, 3 power play points, and a shorthanded point. I thought that was excellent. 21 points. Nathan Miller, 3 wins, including a bonus shutout over a top 5 team. a goal and an assist for Jack Lee, and Nathan Guinness with a goal and 2 assists. And despite putting up 74 points in that last week, I'm still in 4th place. So the tough part about picking players for just the first round in the EHL is you just don't know how many games these series are going to go.
Nope,
so
that's the fun part / stressful part.
My team is Adam Beauvais of the Little Flyers, Kieran Chung of the Rough Riders, Matt Gover of the Wizards, and Michael Tersoni of the Avalanche. So I'm going with that. Next, in order of how we finished, a solid 22 points ahead of me, 24 points ahead of me was Anthony, who had a stellar final week and a half that included 3 goals from Dallas D'Amato, 8 assists, 3 power play points, and 2 shorthanded points. Ryan Bro also got him a goal, 6 assists, 4 on the power play, and 1 shorthanded. 2 games
That's
won.
a D-man.
Yes, 2 games won for Trey Miller, 3 goals, 2 assists, 2 power play points for Damon Dulac, and a power play assist for Trent King. Anthony put up 85.4 points in the final week to separate himself from me for 4th place. Anthony,
And he's in the 700 club, Anthony. Welcome.
Let's go.
702.8, buddy.
Anthony, who do you have in the first round?
Okay, from the Rough Riders, I got Colin Bella at my forward position, 15 goals last 7 games. Jimmy Metler on defense. Nathan Miller for the Boston Junior Rangers, going for that wins record. Got to go with him. And then Charles Lavoie. Hey, I said that Applecourt's going to go for the upset. Got to pick one of their players, and I think it's going to be Lavoie.
That shifts us to Jeff, who is in 2nd place. And at one point, we'll get to you, Lauren. At one point, he was right behind Lauren.
Single-digit points.
Because, Jeff in the final week and a half, Lavoie with 4 goals, 3 assists, 1 on the power play, a goal for Tim Duffy, a win for Jeremy Connor, 2 goals, 4 assists, 2 power play points from Nick Weber, who I just got the text, just committed to Post University. And
nice. Congrats, Nick.
A power play assist for Jackson Duquette. Overall, 47.8. Jeff, what picks do you have for the first round?
First round, Colin Callanan. If you can't go Colin Bella, might as well go with the other Colin. The other Colin Callanan from the New York Apple Corps. D, Ryan Bro, because he was good stinky for Anthony in that last week. So I'm going to take his good stinky to my D. Joseph Henson in net because he's been great for me all season from the Philadelphia Little Flyers. Then we're going to go up north for my utility. Matt Carlson. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Carlson gets a lot of points. Let's go, Natty.
Oh, God. Okay.
Oh, God.
So
a big sigh for the commish.
Oh, God.
What's wrong, Neil?
Because now we get to Lauren's picks. And
made it to the penthouse. Let's go. Neil gets excited over hat trick points, but I have the most hat tricks this season. Thank you, Colabella, again.
I had 2 hat tricks all year. She had 2 hat tricks last week.
Yep.
Put me at 4 total.
I'm not going to announce Colin Bella's point totals yet because I want to start with Dom Cherico, who got a goal, 4 assists, 2 power play, 13. Stefan Kulhanek got you 6.2 points despite not winning a game. Colin Callanan got you 6 assists, 2 on the power play for 14 more. Philip Parker with 2 goals, an assist, and 1 power play point for 9. Right then alone, those 4 players, it's a pretty productive week. From February 24th to March 7th, when Lauren picked Colin Bella, he gave her 11 goals, 4 assists, 5 power play points, a shorthanded point, a game-winning goal, and 2 hat tricks for 53 total points.
Cheating. Cheat code. Colin Bella. Cheat code.
On any other week, I could have won with just Colin Bella.
What?
Yeah, legit. Absolutely.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I picked him once, and he got me an assist.
Yeah, Neil had the opposite effect that Lawrence players. They were like, "Oh, we're on Lawrence this week. Oh, we're gonna be good. Oh, we're on Neil's stuck."
Yeah, they go on my team and they're like, "All right, great, we're gonna get you a ton of points." And Neil's like, "All right, next week I'm taking him. He takes them.
I'm scared of you, Neil. I don't know something.
So,
what are you doing?
I'm willing to bet that you can't put up 95 points this week. But who do you have in the first round?
got a couple of fun faces. I'm picking Mr. Jordan Camilla. He's been a heavy hitter for the Little Flyers. He's a fun guy to watch out there on the ice. Defense, I'm picking one of my Red All-Stars. Haven't taken him in a little while, Mr. Julius Cavano. He was an absolute character to have on that team. So fun to get to know him, and he's like such a good player to watch this season. In goal, I'm taking one of Anthony's boys. I'm picking Mr. Jeremy Connor for the 87s. Hopefully I can have some better goalie luck. I love goalies, but they just haven't seemed to want to love me back this season all that much. So they've been my kryptonite a little bit. So hopefully I can turn it around in playoffs. And then for my utility pick, love this kid. I gotta go with Billy Hartnett from the Valley Junior Warriors, captain for them. He's big body. He was so fun to also have on my all-star team, and he's just such a good guy, and I'm so excited to see how he fares in the playoffs, because if it's anything like he does in the regular season, he's just going to be gross.
Overall points, I won this last year, but I have 678.8 this year, which again is good enough for fourth place. Anthony, Lauren, and Jeff are all in the 700 club, starting with Anthony at 702.8, Jeff at 714.6, and Lauren at 768.4. And to back up the statement that she just said, she has 7 fewer wins in net than the next closest person. She had 16. Anthony had 23. Jeff had 24. I had 31. So you factor in another 5 wins, maybe, from her goalies, and it's 20 more points. That just shows you what we've been dealing with all season with fantasy.
But goaltending wins championships. What the heck?
Yeah, I struggle with goalies, but all the rest of my guys have been picking up the pieces. And I think honestly, once we got the P kids in here, just took off.
Yeah, well, she has 88 goals. That's the difference, right? I only scored 39. So with that, let's get to what to watch for.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to watch for is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action through the 2021-2022 season.
What to watch for is my fantasy team not scoring, even though I have good players. But regardless, there is one EHLP game to watch for this week. Of course, we're dropping this podcast on Tuesday, March 8th, the day that our play-in game is scheduled between the Warriors and the Seahawks. But on the 9th, tomorrow, Rangers versus Railers, huge implications for the regular season title. Because remember, when you get to the second round in the EHLP, the top loser, if you will, of the 3 teams that lose their division finals automatically goes to the Frozen Finals with the at-large bid. So if you are the regular season champion and you win your first round series, no matter what happens in the second round, you're going to the final. So a huge game between the Railers and Rangers. And then we'll wrap up all the EHL stuff by each of us giving one series they're most excited about. And for me, it's in the state that I'm currently in, New Hampshire. I'm most excited about the Wolves and Lumberjacks. Who's next?
I would say I'm excited for the Railers. I think that's going to be fun. Plus, I'll be in town hopefully to catch Friday's game, I believe. So I'm excited to get to see that in person. I've gotten to see them a few times this season and haven't seen the Apple Corps in a while since like showcases basically. So it'll be cool to kind of see them again. But I'm definitely excited to watch that one. I'm pulling for my Blue Train boys.
Jeff, Anthony?
Because I was going to bring up that series too. I'm either going to look like the biggest genius or the biggest jerk going for this upset. But at the very least, I will stick to my guns that this should be an exciting series, regardless of who wins. And of course, me being the 87s homer, shout out to the New England Wolves. I'm just looking forward to calling games with between the ProTech Junior Ducks and the New Jersey 87s.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say Lubby's Wolves there, Anthony.
Jeff,
how about I go Red Train Wizards?
Yeah, why I take you so long?
Expected, right? I know. Come on, jeez. Look, I want to see is this it? Are the Walpole Express going to finally crack in the good way and move north? Are they gonna be able to knock off the Wizards, who you talked about, Neil? We've talked about them many a times around this time of year in years past together, and do they still have any magic left in their wizardry? We'll see. Or is the train just going to go right through all the magic and say, enough of that magic? I'm just going to plow through full steam ahead, throw the coal in the engine. I don't know. That's gonna be an interesting. I don't know. That was kind of hard to pick. They all were hard to pick, but.
And now that you've all finished listening to this podcast, go watch our award show announcing all of the end of the season award winners in the EHL, and then buckle up for the play-in game and the entire first round of the EHL playoffs. Next week, we'll preview the first round of the EHLP playoffs and update you on where we're at with the EHL for the second round. So enjoy the first round of the EHL. The playoffs are back, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.